Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen.
Hello and welcome to Gegenpressing, the Bundesliga podcast. This is the Champions League review show. I'm Manu and he's Stefan Bienkowski. Stefan, how's it going?
Yeah, good. I'm literally just off the back of watching the Union Berlin game, actually. I didn't get a chance to catch it on Tuesday. So I watched it in full just before we started doing the show, which means I've watched 3 of the 4 German games this week and full of opinions, as always. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, and I watched Union as well. I watched the Leipzig game and the Bayern game. We split the Wednesday games, right? So you got to watch Dortmund, and I watched Leipzig. I have lots of opinions as well, and about all the games, and I think we should jump right into it. Usually what we do, because of timing, yesterday I had a travel day, so we weren't able to record right away after the game. So usually what we do, we go to the game that we watched last first. But I think because of the way we're recording it this week, maybe let's do it in chronological order, shall we? Actually, in fact, you've watched Union Berlin last. So I guess you could do the first game that you watched last first, if that makes sense. So let's start with Union Berlin, because I have some thoughts here, and I really feel for them, because this was a match that they seemingly controlled. Then Bruma scores an incredible goal out of nowhere, right? Andre Castro then scores the winner really late in the 94th minute, just like in the Real Madrid game. Becker writes history, becomes the first Surinamese player to score a brace in the Champions League. There's so much there, but Stefan, I'm starting to get a little worried about Union Berlin. I think that there's a lot of players there. There's a lot of players that are still learning the system. I think there's a lot of games there. There's an atmosphere there that they're not quite used to, and I think Urs Fischer is probably at the moment just trying to figure out how to get this team back into smoother waters, is I think the best way to describe it, because it seems all very emotional, turbulent, and not really in control. And I think control is pretty much what got Union Berlin to the Champions League in the first place, and they don't have it right now.
Yeah, it was such an odd game. I think heartbreak's probably a good term to use for it. Similarities to the Real Madrid game, maybe in the sense that obviously the late loser or the late goal they conceded. I think that's probably where the comparisons to the Real Madrid game probably end, because where I thought they defended really well against Real Madrid, I actually thought they were quite dishevelled. I thought they were kind of disorganised. Quite naive, actually, for much of this game. And ultimately, I think they let a very average Braga side there's the expression like punch and grab result, where Braga just they did very little for much of the game. And look, at least 2 of the Braga goals were near enough unsavable. It's worth pointing out for anyone who missed the game. It's definitely worth looking at the goals on, the highlights depending on whichever country or region you're in. But as you said, Bruma's goal is basically a long shot from a corner, which came out of the box. Scored with 30, 40 yards out. Beautiful curling shot. And Castro's is a really great shot as well in the kind of, as you said, dying moments of the game. I actually thought Braga's first goal was a bit of a mistake from Rono in goals, to be honest with you. I thought he should have done a lot better there. I don't know how you feel, but obviously it's part of the goalkeeping union, but it's just one of those ones where he gets a hand to it, but he doesn't actually parry it anywhere. So it just
You know my
allows...
opinion on that, Stefan. If you get a hand to it, then gotta stop it.
You have to do better. Yeah, exactly. He either has to like grab that ball or really push it aside. He basically just gets a touch to it and it just kind of sits there in the 6-yard box where Nikita taps it home, really. And it was such a shame because Union started so well in this game. They obviously had a goal disallowed 4 minutes in, which was very tight call. And throughout the first half, Becker just absolutely shredded this team apart. You know, time and time again, he was finding space on the counter-attack, down that right wing, linking up very well with, Union's attacking players. And, I thought it was a really, really kind of, confident performance from Union. But, Braga scored that goal a couple of minutes before half-time. They then scored that wonder goal 5 minutes after the restart, and from there it just kind of felt like Union were stunned, and I think maybe their inexperience at this level really began to show. But I don't really want to be too harsh on them because I feel like you take 2 really outstanding goals out of the equation there, and they were outstanding to the extent that Union's XG was twice of Braga's. I mean, Braga scored 3 goals off an XG of 1.09, which perhaps shows how far off those shots were from statistically being chances that should have went in the back of the net. So if you kind of take those 2 goals out of the equation, I think if you replay this game 99 out of 100 times, I think Union probably takes something from it. So part of me kind of thinks the performance on the whole was actually quite good, but there was just something about Union that just kind of seemed to spook them in that second half. And they didn't attack with nearly the same sort of, vigor or attention. Like in the first half, they had 3 shots and goals. Second half, they had just the 1, I think. I can only think of maybe a handful of maybe kind of diving headers that Union had in the second half, as opposed to the first half where they were really routinely getting in behind that Braga defence. But yeah, it was a disappointing result. And I don't know, I guess it's just all experience at this level.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.